Imagine you have like 100,000 words of just pure gold sitting on a hard drive somewhere.
Oh yeah, just collecting digital dust.
Exactly. Years of blog posts or meticulously researched articles, maybe deep dive notes you've poured your absolute soul into. But the internet has completely shifted. I mean, it doesn't just want to read anymore, right? It wants to watch. Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah, it's a totally visual landscape now.
Right. And the pressure to take that absolute mountain of written text and magically transform it into, a captivating video presence, it can feel completely overwhelming. You're probably looking at your screen, wondering how to bridge that gap without completely burning out.
It is honestly the ultimate modern bottleneck. Like the expectation to just be everywhere in every visual format is a guaranteed recipe for exhaustion if you attempt to do it the traditional manual way.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our mission today is to explore how smart creators are using AI to build a video empire from their blog. We are tearing down the strategies, the specific tools, and really the massive mindset shift that is making this leap from text to video not just possible, but highly efficient.
And to really grasp the mechanics of what we are talking about today, I want you to picture something. Think of like a cozy, dusty library.
Okay, I see it.
It's filled with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, journals, endless stacks of text, that's your blog. But then, almost instantly, the walls just fall away, the lighting shifts, and suddenly you are standing in the middle of a vibrant, high-tech video production studio. Ring lights, monitors, multiple camera angles, the whole setup.
Oh, wow. That's quite the transition.
Right. But that seamless, almost magical morph from a static room of text into a dynamic, multisensory environment, that is exactly what AI is doing for content creators right now. It's not just a shortcut. It is a fundamental, revolutionary shift in how we produce media.
That makes a lot of sense because, I mean, let's be real, reading a 2,000-word article out loud to a camera is definitely not a viable video strategy.
No, absolutely not. It's incredibly boring.
Right. The pacing is wrong, the structure is wrong. So how are creators actually using AI to perform that distillation? Like, how does a machine know what to keep and what to throw away?
So it really comes down to natural language processing. The
Mhm.
AI doesn't just, scan your document for a few random keywords. It actually analyzes the narrative arc.
Wait, it understands the story arc?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It identifies the hook, the rising action, the core arguments, and the conclusion. And from there, it automatically generates a script that's tailored specifically for the spoken word. It takes those really complex, dense paragraphs and translates them into punchy, conversational dialogue.
That's insane.
It really is. And it does this to cater to different learning styles because some viewers need to hear the information, some need to see it mapped out visually, and, some need an emotional narrative to actually retain what is being said.
So the AI is essentially acting as a translator, moving ideas from the language of the page to the language of the screen.
Yes, but it actually goes a step further than just the script. While it processes all that text, the AI simultaneously scans massive databases of visual assets.
Oh, really? Like stock footage?
Yeah, exactly. It uses semantic matching to suggest B-roll footage, animations, and graphics that align perfectly with the narrative. And this is the crazy part. It's not just matching literal words. Like, it's not just showing a picture of a bank when you say the word money.
Right, which always looks so cheap and cheesy.
Totally. Instead, it's analyzing the emotional tone of the sentence. It pulls visuals that enhance that specific mood, which, dramatically reduces the time a creator would normally spend just hunting for the right stock footage.
It's basically like having the world's most efficient, tireless executive assistant.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, you write your blog post, hit publish, and go to sleep. And overnight, this assistant reads your work, understands your core themes, rewrites it into a snappy script, pulls all the visual assets that match the vibe, and just hands you a fully prepared storyboard with your morning coffee.
That is the exact dynamic changing the industry right now. The creator wakes up and steps directly into the role of the director rather than being, the weary production assistant who just spent 10 hours organizing file folders. You get to focus entirely on refining the core message.
Let's follow that thread, though.
Yeah.
Because I might have a script and a folder full of raw visuals, but if the final video looks clunky or the pacing drags, no one is going to stick around to watch it.
Right. The packaging still matters.
Exactly. So how does the creator take these raw AI-generated materials and actually assemble them into something polished that people want to click on?
Well, this is where the algorithm starts acting as your editor. Advanced AI models are now deeply involved in the actual timeline assembly.
Like cutting the clips together.
Yeah. The AI can look at the audio waveforms of a voiceover, identify the dead air, the ums, and the awkward pauses, and automatically ripple delete them to tighten up the pacing.
Wow. So it edits out the human hesitation.
It does, but it also evaluates the narrative flow to inject dynamic visual storytelling techniques. So it's layering in infographics, motion graphics, or like vibrant color transitions exactly when viewer attention typically drops.
That implies the AI understands the psychology of the viewer. Like it knows that a dynamic transition or an on-screen graphic at the 30-second mark prevents the audience from getting bored and clicking away.
It absolutely does,
Okay.
and that's based on millions of hours of historical watch data. But what's arguably more powerful is what the AI does after the video is rendered. It steps into the role of the marketer. It completely automates and optimizes your video SEO.
Okay, let's define that for a second. Video SEO, or search engine optimization, it's essentially the practice of speaking the hidden language of a platform, right? Like
Yeah.
YouTube or TikTok. So the platform understands exactly what your video is about and serves it to the right people.
Correct. The algorithm acts as this giant matching engine. And to make the match, it relies on metadata, so the titles, descriptions, and tags attached to your video file. AI analyzes vast amounts of internet traffic data to identify trending keywords and competitive strategies.
So it's looking at what everyone else is doing in real time.
Exactly. It then automatically tweaks your metadata to ensure maximum discoverability. It even tells you the optimal time to post based on when your specific target demographic is most active online.
But the packaging goes way beyond just the hidden text, though. Like the visual packaging, the thumbnail, is arguably the single most important factor in whether someone actually clicks. How is AI taking over that process?
Through machine learning models that evaluate click-through rates at a really microscopic level, the AI can generate thumbnails by pulling the most visually arresting frame from your video, and then it applies design principles that are currently trending.
Wait, it knows what's trending in graphic design.
Yes. It knows from analyzing billions of data points that say a specific shade of yellow or a particular layout composition, or even the subtle angle of a facial expression in the thumbnail will generate a higher click-through rate today than it would have a week ago.
Okay, wait, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If the machine is analyzing the text, pulling the footage, cutting the dead air, picking the keywords, and designing the thumbnail down to the exact shade of yellow, are we even creators anymore? Or are we just managing a fleet of bots? I mean, it feels like we are losing the human soul of the content.
That tension is at the forefront of every creator's mind right now. It's a very valid fear. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, handing over these highly logistical mathematical tasks actually protects your creative energy.
How does automating the creative packaging protect your creative energy?
Think about the mechanics of creator burnout. It rarely comes from the act of writing the blog or, developing the core idea. Burnout comes from the grueling, punishing process of trying to outsmart an ever-changing algorithm.
Oh, that makes sense. The constant tweaking.
Right. It comes from spending 5 hours agonizing over a thumbnail font because you are terrified the platform won't push your video. By offloading the pure science of discoverability to the AI, you actually reclaim the mental bandwidth to experiment. You can test completely new concepts, play with diverse storytelling approaches, and focus on the actual substance of your ideas without losing your mind to the grind of algorithmic appeasement.
So it's basically trusting the machine to get the people in the door so you can focus entirely on what you're going to say once they sit down.
Exactly. Because engineering a click using optimized thumbnails and SEO, that is a hard science. But getting a viewer to stay, to care, and to return for the next video, that remains an art form. And that requires understanding your audience on a profoundly deep level.
Which bridges us perfectly to the next challenge. You've converted the text, you've optimized the packaging, and you got the click. But a video without an engaged audience is just taking up server space. How did these creators use AI to turn passive viewers into a loyal, interactive community?
Well, they leverage the sheer volume of data the AI can process. The AI acts as an incredibly sophisticated listening device. It tracks minute demographic shifts. It maps out exact viewer retention drop-offs down to the specific second a viewer got bored.
Down to the second. That's incredible.
Yeah, and it also performs sentiment analysis on the comment section. It isn't just counting the number of comments, it is reading them to determine if the audience is inspired, confused, or frustrated.
Having access to that level of granular feedback must completely change how a creator plans their next piece of content.
It allows them to pivot in real time. Like
Right.
if the retention graph shows that a massive segment of the audience rewatched a specific 15-second explanation of it instantly, that there's a hunger for that specific knowledge.
Oh, so they can double down on it.
Exactly. They can immediately generate a new targeted video specifically addressing that subtopic, tailoring the aesthetic and the pacing to the exact demographic that showed interest.
And there is also the personalization aspect on the viewer's end, right? The algorithms analyze a user's behavior, what videos they watched all the way through, what they liked, what genres they spend the most time on.
Yeah, this is how platforms curate a tailored viewing experience for every single user. When the AI serves up a recommendation that perfectly aligns with what the viewer was just thinking about, it fosters this really profound sense of belonging. The viewer feels understood by the creator's ecosystem.
It reminds me of a real-world scenario. Think about a veteran stand-up comedian reading a room.
Okay.
Like, a great comic doesn't just recite their written material. They adjust their set based on the laughs they are getting, the energy of the crowd, the groans. But with this AI integration, it's like that comedian isn't just looking at faces in a dart club. They have thousands of individual data points whispering in their ear, telling them exactly what premise the audience wants to hear next, perfectly tailored to the demographic sitting right in the front row.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. It is dynamic, real-time interaction at an unprecedented scale. And when you, as a creator, can respond to audience feedback with that level of precision, viewer loyalty skyrockets. It transforms a one-way broadcast into a two-way conversation, which expands the content's reach far beyond the limitations of the original text blog.
So once you achieve that, a highly engaged, perfectly tailored community that feels seen and heard by your content, you have essentially laid the foundation of a digital empire.
The foundation, yes. But, an empire requires infrastructure to actually survive.
Because an enormous audience is incredible. But if you cannot leverage that AI-optimized workflow to build a consistent brand and actually generate revenue across multiple platforms, you don't really have an empire. You just have a very time-consuming, very expensive hobby.
Exactly. Which brings us to monetization and brand consistency. For an audience to trust you across different platforms, your visual identity has to be rock solid. And AI plays a crucial role in maintaining a strict style guide autonomously.
Autonomously, like without you double-checking it.
Yeah, we are talking about ensuring your logos, typography, and color schemes remain perfectly uniform, whether your video is being cast to a massive 4K television or viewed on a tiny mobile feed.
So instead of a human editor manually checking the hex codes,
Yeah.
those 6-digit strings of numbers that tell a screen exactly what shade of blue or red your brand uses, the AI automatically applies the correct visual identity to every single asset it generates.
It guarantees visual uniformity, because if a viewer discovers a 60-second clip of yours on a social feed, they need to instantly, almost subconsciously, recognize your brand when they encounter a 20-minute deep dive on a different platform weeks later. That brand recognition is the currency of trust.
And the ultimate goal of building that trust is multi-platform monetization. The strategy for smart creators right now is heavily diversified. They aren't just relying on one platform's ad revenue.
No, they can't afford to. The most successful creators use AI to capture ad revenue on platforms like YouTube, while simultaneously driving their most dedicated viewers toward direct subscription models on platforms like Patreon or Vimeo. The real magic of the AI workflow is its ability to effortlessly tailor the formats for these vastly different ecosystems, all from the exact same source material.
Break down how that format tailoring actually works in practice. How does the AI treat the content differently?
Okay, let's say your original blog post was a really comprehensive 3,000-word guide. The AI can analyze that text and generate a script for a highly polished 15-minute horizontal video for streaming. But it can also identify the 3 most controversial or surprising sentences in that text and automatically cut 3 separate 45-second vertical videos.
Wow, from the same session.
Yes. It will recrop the framing to keep your face centered, add fast-paced, colorful captions, and optimize those short clips specifically for the fast-scrolling culture of TikTok or Instagram Reels.
So the short form acts as the wide net to drive awareness, and the long form serves as the deep dive for the loyal community. And because the AI has gathered all that incredibly granular demographic data we discussed earlier, creators can use those insights to strategically align with brands for sponsorships.
That data is invaluable for affiliate marketing and sponsorships. Because instead of guessing what their audience might buy, creators know exactly what products will resonate. It preserves the authenticity of the content because the brand integrations feel like natural recommendations rather than forced, irrelevant commercials.
But doesn't an automated multi-stream approach risk making the content feel incredibly generic? Popping up my blog and blasting it across 5 different platforms simultaneously, it feels like it runs the risk of looking spammy, no matter how perfectly color-corrected the hex codes are.
If the creator treats the AI as just a publishing button rather than a tool, absolutely, it will feel like spam. But the distinction with smart creators is that they do not just copy and paste, they actively oversee the tailoring process.
So they're still deeply involved.
Very much so. They ensure the tone matches the platform, keeping the short form casual and punchy, while letting the long form breathe all while maintaining their overarching brand narrative.
So the AI isn't replacing their judgment. It is giving them the time required to exercise that judgment effectively. I mean, if you had to manually edit a YouTube essay, manually crop and subtitle 3 vertical shorts, and write a Patreon-exclusive update all from scratch, you would literally never sleep.
The automation provides the bandwidth to be intentional. And by distributing that tailored content across a multitude of platforms, creators mitigate the enormous existential risk of relying on a single income source. If an algorithm changes overnight and tanks their visibility on one platform, it doesn't topple their empire because they have established thriving, monetized outposts everywhere else, all fueled by the same AI-assisted engine.
So what does this all mean for you? Whether you are a solo blogger who's been meticulously typing away in obscurity for years, a marketer trying to prep for a massive campaign, or just someone inherently curious about how to communicate your ideas to a wider audience, AI is completely leveling the playing field.
Hmm.
It is taking the daunting, technically complex, and traditionally expensive task of video production and turning it into an accessible, data-backed engine for exponential growth.
It is a profound paradigm shift in how we value and distribute knowledge. And since knowledge is only truly valuable when it is applied, I really encourage you to look at your own written work through this new lens. Maybe it's a presentation you gave at work, a detailed journal entry, or an entire archive of old blog posts. Just imagine the visual narrative hiding inside that text, waiting to be unlocked and scaled by these technologies.
It's an incredibly exciting time to be creating. But looking at the sheer power of these tools leaves us with something pretty profound to think about. If AI can seamlessly translate our written words into perfectly optimized video content, if it can track our retinas and analyze our data to predict exactly what we want to watch, down to the second, what happens to the value of human imperfection?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right, in a digital world where every single piece of media is algorithmically smoothed out, color-corrected, and engineered for maximum retention, what is the future for purely spontaneous, messy, unoptimized creation? Does it lose its value completely, or does it eventually become the only thing that truly stands out?
This raises such an important question about authenticity. When perfection becomes cheap and automated, vulnerability and human friction might just become the rarest, most valuable commodities on the internet. It is absolutely something to mull over as this technology continues to accelerate.
Something to think about the next time you find yourself clicking on a perfectly designed, impossibly vibrant thumbnail. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the AI-driven video empire. We will see you next time.